Hello and welcome back to Soma Talks, the space where body and mind meet. I am Agata, and today we are exploring a theme that feels especially alive right now as autumn deepens and our reality gets quieter. So, sadness and joy, how these two emotions complete one another. In many cultures, this is a very reflective time that we are going for now, around early November, when we remember about the ones who are not with us anymore. Even if we don't attach any spiritual meaning to this time, we can sense a kind of collective pause, collective release, a softer energy that invites all of us to feel both grief and gratitude, sometimes at the same time. Today, we will look at how sadness and joy can coexist, because they do exist simultaneously in our body and mind. We will also explore what science says about their relationship, how they shape our physiology, and how embracing both of these emotions can bring us into a deeper connection with ourselves and with others. So, if you are ready, let's start with the nature of sadness and joy. Because we often think of emotions as opposites, for example, happy or sad. But in truth, sadness and joy are part of the same emotional rhythm. There are many psychologists, for example, Barbara Fredrickson. She's known for her book Broaden and Build Theory of Positive Emotions, where she talks broadly about positive emotions. If you are interested, I'm attaching the link to this episode. But basically, she reminds us that joy expands our awareness. So, accordingly to her, it helps us connect, create, and build resilience. Our lesson is that sadness isn't the absence of joy, but it's a doorway to it. Sadness slows us down. It's the body's way of processing change, loss, endings, nostalgia, and so on. Joy, on the other hand, is what emerges when we have made some space, when we have more energy, when this energy flows freely again. So both are needed for emotional balance, sadness and joy. What does the science say in regard to this topic? Basically, from a neurobiological point of view, emotions are embodied experiences. So these are not just abstract ideas. We really store emotions in our body and mind. Sadness and joy share some overlapping pathways in our brain. For example, in amygdala, in limbic system, and prefrontal cortex, and so on. So there was one study published in Nature Neuroscience, which found that sadness activates brain regions tied to social connection and empathy. The conclusion is that sadness actually enhances our ability to bond and seek support from others. Joy, in the meantime, stimulates dopamine, releases oxytocin and serotonin, which helps the nervous system recover from stress. So in general, the body uses sadness to restore some deep emotions, some experiences. It's more of a reflexive kind of emotion. And joy is mostly about replenishing, motivating, and expanding. Another psychologist, Susan David, calls this the art of emotional acceptance. So it's about allowing emotions to move through us instead of labeling them as good emotion or bad emotion. Her research shows that the emotional suppression, so suppressing the emotions, pushing them away, can increase psychological stress and lower immune function. On the other hand, acceptance supports resilience and clarity. So embracing sadness is not really weakness, although we sometimes think so, because when we see somebody cry, we often think, oh, this person has some problems, doesn't handle them well. But actually, this is our nervous system wisdom. For example, crying is a way of releasing tension. So it's our natural reaction to sadness and very deep emotions. Since we started this topic, it's good to explore a bit more of psychosomatics regarding sadness and joy. When we bring this topic into the body, this is where emotions live and express themselves. Sadness, when it's allowed, is a grounding emotion. It slows our breath, it draws the energy inward, and it softens the gaze. So you might feel a lump in the throat, or heaviness in the chest, or tears, because all these physical releases can help us process the emotional charge that we carry within. So when sadness is suppressed, on the other hand, that energy doesn't disappear. It often becomes fatigue, digestive tension, muscle tightness, because the body always holds what the mind resists. Joy, in contrast, is expansion. Shoulders get open, our breath deepens, and neuropsychologically, it's associated with parasympathetic regulation, which calms the heart and enhances digestion and our immune function. In psychosomatic, we might say sadness is more of the exhale energy. It's about letting go, it's about surrendering. While the joy is the inhale. This is the return of our life, of our energy. What is important is, as in everything in life, with sadness and joy, we also need balance. Too much joy without sadness can feel a bit detached from depth, too artificial, while too much sadness without joy becomes stagnation and depression. The body needs both movement and stillness, expansion and contraction to stay alive and to stay in balance. And this is not a coincidence that we start this month with exactly this topic, because this moment in the year, early November, naturally mirrors that emotional cycle. Even when we look in the nature, the trees shed, there are stills and the light softens, days are shorter, it gets colder. There is something profoundly somatic about this season as well. Just as nature releases its leaves, our nervous system may also long to let go, to integrate the whole year, to honor what's past. In the stillness that follows, joy starts to root within us. It's not really loud or euphoric joy, but it's very calm, gentle, deeply grounded. Maybe when we start thinking of our time with family, of Christmas, we start to get the sparkle of that joy. Notice that seasonal symbolism we can use as a grounding in the new year renewal. Research on this seasonal affect and emotional rhythm shows that humans are biologically tuned to slower tempos in autumn and winter, and these phases help us consolidate memory, regulate moods, and prepare for the upcoming renewal. So when we feel reflective or even melancholic this time of year, it's not any kind of pathology or weakness, it's just physiology, because we are simply synchronizing with the rhythm of seasons. So how to process these emotions? One of the most powerful ways to bring balance between sadness and joy is emotional expression, just communicating these emotions, giving voice, movement, breath. Firstly, name it. Studies show that when we name an emotion, for example, saying, I feel sadness, I feel gratitude, I feel joy, we reduce the amygdala activation. So in simple words, naming helps the body calm down. Second tip is just crying when you need it. Crying is a biological stress release, as I mentioned briefly before, and tears actually contain stress hormones and can lower blood pressure and heart rate afterwards. Thirdly, move emotion through the body. So movement, for example, stretching, walking, maybe shaking, it all releases tension stored in the muscle. And research on this so-called somatic experiencing shows that the movement helps complete emotional cycles. Fourth rule is letting joy be very small. It doesn't have to be euphoric, it doesn't have to be enormous joy, because it doesn't always come in fireworks and can be very quiet. If you just appreciate the sunlight, a smile, a good meal, These micro moments of joy have a lot of benefits for our health, well-being, and stress resilience. And lastly, just practice some daily reflection and integration of your emotions. For example, before going to sleep, think, what did I release today? What gave me joy today? So that you learn about your ways of expressing and accepting both sadness and joy. The links between emotions are present all the time. So remind your nervous system that life contains both holding and letting go, sadness and joy. Now let's come back to the body, because as many say, the body is a home for emotion. This is where all emotions begin and end. Every feeling we experience leaves footprints somewhere in our physical form. So the body doesn't distinguish between past and present, but it holds. It simply holds what hasn't yet been expressed. Sadness, for instance, often settles in the throat and chest. So these areas are connected to breath and voice. When we hold back tears or words, the muscle of the neck of our throat get tightened. The familiar lump in the throat, it's the body's signal that energy wants to move, wants to be felt, to be expressed, to be released, but it cannot. You might also notice sadness as some heaviness, maybe in your limbs, something that pulls you down. It's the body's natural posture for rest and reflection. And this isn't weakness, it's a biological cue to slow down and conserve energy, allowing integration of the emotions that we still have within. Joy, on the other hand, expands outward. It shows up as openness in the chest, lightness in the eyes, some fluidity in the movement. We just feel lighter. Our nervous system recognizes joy as safety. So this is a signal that it's okay to express, to connect, to reach, to open up. We are not afraid anymore. From a psychosomatic perspective, both emotions are vital messages from the body's intelligence. Sadness anchors us while the joy animates us. When we honor both, we stay connected to the rhythm of life. So what's the specific answer to the question we asked? How do we work with these emotions for the body? Firstly, ground yourself. When emotions rise, whether grief or happiness, pause and feel. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel anchored. This simple act sends information to your nervous system that I am here and I am safe. Secondly, breathing. Sadness often constricts breath. Joy may expand it. But try this. Breath into where the emotion lives. So once you notice where the emotion is stored in your body, try to breathe into that place. Maybe it's chest, maybe it's belly, maybe it's your throat. Imagine that you create more space inside through breathing. Thirdly, use your body as a way to relax through some touch, some stretching, flexibility. For example, you can place a hand over your heart or over the area where you feel tension. It will release oxytocin, as hugging does, for example. It's the hormone of calm and connection. And the body responds to touch as reassurance, reminding that this emotion that we feel is safe and doesn't threaten us. Fourthly, let movement finish what emotion started. So the body completes emotional cycles through movement. A stretch, a walk, maybe some subtle gestures. For example, when you feel sadness, just allow your shoulders to drop and exhale to lengthen. And when you feel joy, let your body open and just express it for your body in the most authentic way, in the most natural way, without even thinking of it. It's mostly about giving your body the freedom to express the emotions. It's our natural, the most authentic reaction. Just follow it. Basically, when we learn to listen to these cues of our body, sadness and joy stop being something that we have to manage or we struggle with, and they become something we smoothly move with. They are not opposites, they are two movements of the same quality. Contraction versus expansion. Anchoring versus rising. It's just a different direction, but it's the same quality of the emotion. And as you move through the days ahead, we are in November, the days get shorter, colder. Just remember that sadness that you might feel now and joy that also sparkles through your days are not meant to replace each other. They are meant to coexist. Sadness brings us back to truth, and joy brings us back to life. And the body always is the bridge between the two. So if you feel heaviness, let it ground you. If you feel lightness, let it lift you. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. I hope you got inspired and you will find this episode very useful, especially in this time now in November, at the end of the year. More things are coming, so stay tuned. Until next time. Soma Talks, Agata Daras.